This podcast is a member of the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Visit voicesofwrestling.com to hear the rest of our great podcasts, as well as show reviews, columns, opinions, and updates across the world of wrestling.
This is Everything Elite, the world's best podcast devoted exclusively to all elite wrestling and the elite extended universe. I'm AB. I'm joined, as always, by my good friend Mike Spears, who's gotten into surfing lately, I think.
Oh, no, this is actually a UC Irvine t-shirt.
All right.
So that's a surfing anteater, and that's precisely why I got the t-shirt. I have no affinity for the California State College system, other than they have some great mascots, such as the UC Irvine Anteaters. There was the Santa Barbara Banana Slugs, as immortalized in Pulp Fiction, you know. They have some good mascots out there, and I like to celebrate them. But, hey, y'all, it's your old pal. How are you doing today, AB?
I'm doing okay. I am very irritated by the end of this episode of All Elite Wrestling Dynamite, and I look forward to discussing it with my friends here. We're also joined, of course, by Nate, aka Epitasis. How are you doing tonight, Nate?
I'm doing pretty good. Pretty good episode of the television show, I thought. So that makes it easier to talk about. Maybe. No, it's probably easier to talk about it when it's bad. Too hard to remember things when they're good. But yeah, you know, keeping busy, doing work, having a job, all that stuff. That's what I'm doing. Yeah.
Just a big job haver over here, Nate.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I go to an office for, you know, like 2/3 of my waking hours on this planet.
I respect that you do your 8, 8, and 8 there, Nate. Clear division.
I definitely don't. I definitely I never slept terribly last night. On a bad sleep run, pretty much for like the last, I don't know, year. So yeah, I'm probably getting like five for the sleep.
Yikes.
I mean, it's fine. Whatever. It's been worse at other points in my life.
That's why I started the ZQL. That's why I'm a ZQL addict now, and I get a good night's sleep most nights.
I'm a ZQL addict. I'm addicted to ZQL. That doesn't work as well as Crack Addict, the theme for WrestleMania 19,
the theme
right?
For WrestleMania 19, I'm a crack addict. I'm addicted to crack. Is this what
Yeah,
I'm
Limp
supposed to?
Bizkit Crack Addict was the theme song to WrestleMania 19.
Okay, don't remember that.
Oh, I do, because they performed it live at Safeco. Aaron knows what's up.
That was not even like a big single for them, was it?
No, it was not. It was post peak.
What a weird post peak Biscuit. They got AEW's got to bring Biscuit. Let's just talk about Biscuit. I'm done with that.
Biscuit is never post peak. I just want to be clear about that. The Biscuit is always peaking.
Definite lie.
Yeah, falsehood.
No, the Biscuit is seeing a revival, I think. There was a post going around today of the Rock and Roll Photos account of Fred Durst performing Fellatio on Wes Borland's MTV VMA. So clearly they're back in the discourse.
Did see that. I thought about retweeting it when it had like 40 retweets, and I didn't. And then Chris from the Patreon retweeted it later in the day when it had like 400 retweets, and I was like, there it is. That could have been me. That could have been me getting that retweet in early.
Could have been you up there.
Gets you a lot of prestige on the Twitter site.
It does.
I do. I think we're coming down we're on the tail end of the Limp Bizkit revival period. Really, that was probably like a year ago at minimum.
Y'all do know what the next revival period's going to be.
You're going to say Linkin Park, but I don't think that's accurate. I think
it's Linkin Park, baby.
Chester Bennington died like 4 years ago, so
perfect time to reassess. Perfect time for reassessment.
No, everybody reassessed him. You're way late on this, Mike. Everybody reassessed him after the lead singer died.
I mean, it could be a second.
Oh yeah, turns out there was all this stuff to like about them, but they were always like, 1 foot in the Spin magazine joke department.
Would
but
you
yeah, they're
say
pretty
they
good.
were one step closer?
Oh
I wouldn't.
fuck!
Maybe you would say that. I would not say that.
I would. I did it.
Seems like you did.
All I'm saying is that 4 years after the fact, it's due for another reassessment, a more spiritual reassessment of Linkin Park. How many minutes we are to midnight? I mean, there's a lot of stuff for me to get into. I'm looking forward to this reassessment. Aaron, I know, is all for this. It just seems that Nate does not want.
Mike, I'm
Olympus.
happy for you. I hope you get a lot out of it. I hope you come to appreciate the real Magic Mike Shinoda, a bit more than you have previously in your life. But, if you're looking for there to be a whole groundswell of public outpouring for Limp Bizkit like there was for Linkin Park like there was for Limp Bizkit, I think you're going to be left wanting.
TikTok constantly serves me.
TikTok
constantly serves me this video.
Karrion Kross is here.
Of Jay-Z in the studio with Linkin Park doing
Collision Course, great album.
Yeah, but I can't remember which.
Not a good album. There's 1.5 good mashups on it. The rest are pretty bad.
I can't remember which song it is now, but JC's Mike Shinoda's like, whatever, talks to him. JC's like, don't worry about it. Pretty quick with vocals. I'll probably be able to do this in like a couple of takes. And then he's like, now that I've said that, we'll probably be here all night. And everybody laughs. I'm like, that wasn't fucking funny, Jay-Z. But
you laugh at JC's joke at that time.
And then he knocked it out. So
you're captivated by his presence and charisma, of course.
You are.
Do they have video on that of the sound clips from the album? Like, I want my Frappuccino. Where's my fucking Frappuccino? Or you're wasting your talent, Randy.
I have not seen that on TikTok.
Okay, those are both on the audio album. I, of course, did buy the combination DVD and CD.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't know that I ever watched the DVD.
I mean, between that and Reanimation, we have to acknowledge that Limp Bizkit, not Limp Bizkit, and after Nate did that once, now I am, we have to acknowledge that Linkin Park had a very strong influence into the cultural zeitgeist that came after it.
Absolutely. Again, this was acknowledged by me, at least when I was 16, probably. I was, maybe I was on the forefront at that time. It was big. I definitely remember listening to Charlie Tuna. I'm getting extremely white here for a minute. Listen to Charlie Tuna on the Linkin Park remix album, and then going out and buying a Jurassic 5 album the next day.
Oh God, Nate! I would think of all the things I've said on this show. I would have kept that to myself.
Real 2003 hours from Nate right here.
Again, like a suburban 15-year-old. What do you want from me?
All right. Well, if you want to hear more embarrassing stories from Nate's childhood, please follow us on Twitter.
That is probably the biggest L I've posted. Yeah, I'm sorry, I interrupted again. Probably the biggest L that I've posted on this podcast. I'm glad I did it right at the top of the show and not like 2 hours in.
I'm not sure I understand the logic of that, but sure.
Well, I didn't. I was being sarcastic. It would have been better if I hit it at the end, like your line about the Confederacy winning.
Hey! That didn't happen. I don't really know what you're talking about. If you want to see again more posts about Nate saying things he shouldn't say, follow us on Twitter at Everything AEW. I'm at Aaron Like the Card. Nate's at Epitasis. Mike's at Fuji. Hey, subscribe to the podcast. Just type in Everything Elite, whatever podcast app you use. Hit subscribe. Get these when they hit the free feed. Give us a 5-star rating and review if the app you use is the Apple Podcast app. And if you want to support the show, the best way to do so is to go over to patreon.com/everythingelite and subscribe. We'll kick off the show. I got a feeling there will be some synergy between Elite or Delete and what's been on the Patreon lately. I don't know. I can sense it that in one way or another, that's going to come up. So Elite or Delete, we talk about our favorite and least favorite things from the show. Nate, I'll kick it off with you. What was your favorite thing from this week's episode?
Yeah, I thought it was a pretty strong show. This was kind of the same story as last week, where, most of the time you remember these shows by the ending. And this was another week in a row where basically the show was good enough that the ending kind of didn't matter. And I was like, all right, whatever. Don't care. I'm satisfied with the time I've spent here. Hard zeroing in on one thing that I thought was exceptional. I guess I'll say the parlay, because that most exceeded my expectations. And this is not because MJF called us out on Twitter. But we talk a lot on this show about Chris Jericho and his talk segments, his WWE skits, his new ways to try and put a spin on the promo battle. So they came up with this parlay idea, which I don't. Was it explicitly stated that this was to determine who got the advantage in the blood and guts match? I don't know that it was, but it turned out to be that.
Not until Tony came out, basically, did he tell us that's what was going to be decided.
Okay, so with that as the premise, I thought everybody pretty much had a pretty good promo here. Even guys who've been pretty down on your FDR hair, your FDR bald, your Sean Spears. Even if the content wasn't, especially amazing, they still delivered it pretty effectively, and the sound mix was uncharacteristically good on this episode. So it seemed like you were getting good reactions from the fake crowd. And then really, I thought MJF and Jericho brought it home again in a way that exceeded my expectations. Maybe the big, it's hard to do one of these promo battles where it peaks at the right time and you end up building tension and building anticipation for a big match on a super show, instead of just like, kind of keeping your hype levels at the same point they were already at, or maybe like, deflating them a little bit because you're like, well, all those guys are just in the ring and talking together. But I don't know. They brought the intensity and, just had good content from Jericho as far as MJF taking his spot. I was happy with it. The very end of Jericho's thing, where he's like talking about the summer of love and how this is going to be the summer of violence, was like the perfectly bad pin to put on the end of it in like the Chris Jericho kind of way that you're kind of like, okay, well, it's Chris Jericho. He loves fucking rock and roll music. What are you going to do? But yeah, I thought it was pretty good.
It was something that I feel like that most listeners to our show might not be in complete lockstep with us, but it's something that, like, how uneven this storyline has been and like the way they've done focus with it was such a kind of odd path, or like how I would not expect you to do a lead up to a War Games, but it did kind of come together with the MJF and Jericho spots here. And I think that it's something that it allowed Jericho to kind of be his Sammy Hagar self in a way, like real divorced dad energy. Like he's looking like even more like a divorced dad by the week, by the way. And it kind of works in this way that like everything that Inner Circle is the exact idea that a 50-year-old divorced guy in Florida would find exceptional, especially coming out on motorcycles now and having everything be black because black is sexy. I'll never forget that. That's what Chris Jericho's whole motivation is for this new version of Inner Circle. It's tremendous. But I guess like my big takeaway, other than like I think you hit the promo notes well, was Aaron and I, in the lead up to the original Blood and Guts match, started a series on patreon.com. You can get all the episodes about that we did in the lead up to this before they shelved it until this year. But we were exploring like the confines of a War Games match and how they kind of got away from a War Games match. And the easiest way to get away from like and messing up a War Games match is not sticking to the formula of what a War Games match is. Like it's formulaic in like the most positive sense of the way that if you stick to the formula of a War Games match, there's enough that you will succeed. And at least coming out of the parlay, they said like we don't have a lot of the convoluted rules that people have tacked onto the War Games match. They've kept it very simple to make sure the heels have the advantage, and they made sure that the one person who could probably benefit the most from being beat down and being handicapped and Sammy Guevara is the person going in first. So I have to say that everything about this segment in the lead up to War Games and the lead up to Blood and Guts was a success across the board.
I thought Jericho was good, and I thought the rest of it sucked, really. Jericho sold the match to me in that I was really bummed because I love War Games and I wanted to love this match, and I was pretty out on it. And then Jericho got me back in. So thanks for that, Chris Jericho. The rest of it didn't really appeal to me in any way. It was just kind of like people talking at each other. And it's this same, like, okay, I said like Jericho did a good job, but it's also like about taking spots, which I don't give a shit about. And everything has to have this little like shooty comment to it, which I hate. And I've talked about several times why I hate it. And it's just like, it's boring. But the rest of it I didn't care about. Sammy was cool. I like Sammy, but I don't think anybody except Jericho did a good job of building this match.
Yeah, we talked about the shooty thing last week. I don't think this doesn't feel like it's treading on shooty territory to me. Like, he wants to be the top guy in the company. That's the spot that Chris Jericho has. That's like a universal thing to competition. He wants to be on top and knock Chris Jericho down from his spot and take it. That's the fucking Kevin Durant, liking post about how Steph Curry's not as good as people say he is or whatever. That's MJF. He's got that sort of energy. I thought Sammy's thing where he's the dumb young kid who's not smart enough to not be overconfident and talk himself into having the disadvantage. That makes sense. And him burying Sean Spears and calling him a failure here and a failure there and a failure in the match. That was all money to me. And you said thanks to Chris Jericho, and I thought that was also a good callback from MJF, talking about how first pay-per-view on this company, you wanted a thank you from the crowd for making AEW exist. So I'm going to give you that thank you. And then I'm going to thank you again when I take your spot. I thought that was all pretty good. Yes. Oh, last the thing about the intensity and like why it didn't feel, I think, just like guys talking to me, I think what enhanced that for me was Tony Schiavone in the middle of them all, kind of reacting and playing off the sides and, don't get out of hand here. I'm in the middle. I'm in the crossfire. I thought Tony Schiavone did a great job of selling the intensity of it.
Mike, your pick for Elite this week?
Yeah, and this is actually a hard week for me because there was a lot of stuff that I felt like was good, but nothing that was really heads and shoulders above the rest of the show. But I guess I'll talk about this here because it would be on my brain to talk about it here. The Young Bucks versus the Sydal brothers. I thought that this was a very interesting match. I felt like that they showed a lot more confidence in Mike Sydal, who's really come along from like when he first came into AEW and when he left. But having him be the focus of the real first part, and then like just having a really great chicken shit way for the Bucks to win the match. I thought that was very successful, and this was obviously a filler match, but it was a good filler match, and it kind of led them down the road that now finally it seems like SCU is trying to call their shot. They've been number one contenders for months, and they've been undefeated since having the segment in the waiting room where they proclaimed that they lost another match, they would split up, but now they're put into I can't even say that, like saying like they knocked out Park here, because then they announced that there's going to be another contendership match next week after this promo, which is kind of pointless and makes the promo look dumb. But the match itself, I felt like that was a success. I felt like it was the best match on the show, which, given the participants, I felt like this match had like the expectation to be that as well.
Well, yeah, what I really enjoyed about this match, for a match that there was no doubt as to the outcome of it, really. The Young Bucks were just, full heel, prickish self, and have come up with a lot of just fun little in-between obnoxious taunts and shit and appeals to the camera that still kind of keep you invested in it when it's like, okay, yeah, Matt Sydal is doing his cool trip shit, and he and Nick Jackson are going back and forth, but when Nick Jackson gets the advantage and does some obnoxious thing, he's gonna look into the camera, start talking about it. That's very fun. Highlight, almost my elite pick for this whole show, Brandon Cutler as the Young Bucks new young boy. I was kind of annoyed that they gave him this gimmick when they've already established that Michael Nakazawa has this gimmick in the elite of being their gopher or their young boy or whatever, their lapdog. But Brandon Cutler shining Matt Jackson's new Nikes when he's down to the apron, very funny to me. And I hope this builds up to Brandon Cutler and Michael Nakazawa becoming a tag team of some sort, because I think fans would probably really get behind that, especially if it happens through some BTE nonsense.
Yeah, the thing that sticks out to me about all this is like, I just think when you look at the Young Bucks, Nick always seems remarkably less cool than Matt. Like, I think he has a really hard time pulling off the cool level that Matt has. But I think he's done a really good job since this turn of like, just wringing out every ounce of charisma he has in his body to like feel like he's up on Matt's level. You know, a lot of it they're doing for him with the costuming. I don't know who's, picking his costumes, but that's working. And I think he's getting across that level of dickishness, of, asshole superstar that he doesn't always do. So good on Nick, I'll say.
Yeah, Nick kind of has middle brother syndrome or middle sibling syndrome when you like compare like Matt being older and then of course like they have their younger brother that wrestled them, but it does come off like Malachi Jackson. Like, of course, I've seen the Jackson 3 in a trios match. That was something that I don't think that a lot of people can say, but it's something where like he is the worker of the group, whereas Matt has always kind of been like the character and cerebral guy here. That's nice to see him kind of tap into it. And I'm just going to make the proclamation. Doc Gallows picks everyone's costumes. I mean, come on. Like he makes sure everyone else had the leather newsboy caps, and he's the one who gets the leather fedora. Come on.
Doc Gallows dangly is obscene. It is giant. He's got half a bird hanging from his ear. It's out of control. I love it.
It's tremendous.
It barely fits in that limo, his dangly.
Yeah, you know how I used to say that like the best kind of heels in AEW are like the Danny McBride, like farcical, like aggrieved Southern man kind of persona that like Jericho had. I take that all back because that's Doc Gallows is a Jody Hill, Danny McBride character, like come to life, like really, and I'm just happy each time I see him on screen.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. There was a lot of disagreement, controversy about the big LG licking his bicep. Nate, what did you think about that?
I popped pretty big for it. He's a real freaking weirdo. One of the best things going in pro wrestling, really over the last I don't know 6 years at least, so better part of a decade for Doc Gallows. Yeah, the weirder he gets with it, the more I enjoy it. A man with no haters for sure.
It's interesting to me though that they haven't. Well, I feel like they were wrestling on Dynamite every week there for a bit, and now they're really like not. And I'm like,
well,
it's fine. It's fine.
No, Darby's going to main event TV 3 weeks in a row against decreasing quality of opponents for whatever reason. It's just what they do in a weird sort of thing. Nick Jackson, if honestly, Matt Jackson, sneaky, good looking guy, sneaky, good on the mic. Obviously one of the smarter people in wrestling over the last decade, one of the funnier people in wrestling over the last decade. I think if Nick Jackson was just his own dude, he wouldn't, come off so harshly as like the less charismatic or the less personality filled guy, or it would honestly just be like, oh no, I mean, what a great wrestler, and the rest of it would be secondary to it. So I think he's kind of does suffer from that thing where he's compared to his sibling.
Yeah, I think that's fair, but he's doing a good job here. I'm happy with how it's playing out so far. My elite pick is a simple one. It just struck me in the Kris Statlander match how much more confident she seems in the ring and in general since she came back from this injury. And I don't think that's common when somebody comes back from a big knee injury the way she did. I think that'll often lead to people lacking confidence in the ring. Kris is the opposite. When she walked out and stared into the camera, I was like, I don't know, it really struck me of like, wow, Kris is like here. She's commanding. She has a commanding presence. She's like, okay, now you need to watch me. Everybody look at me as I do this match. And she did. She looked great throughout the ring. Penelope, a little rusty. We haven't seen much of her, but I thought Kris held up her into the bargain, did a great job. And it's hard, like we're just saying about Nick and Matt, it's hard to be in a group with Orange Cassidy, Chuck, and Trent and be able to stand out on any level. But I think Kris is up to their level, can be up to their level from like a charisma perspective. And that's, some people might question that because they're some of the most charismatic people in wrestling, but I think Kris is not going to be overshadowed by the rest of her group. And that's to her credit.
Yeah. And I really liked the match. I thought the match was good. I mean, we had another week where the women had the best rating on the show with Hikaru Shida and Tai Conti from last week. It's crazy to me that more of these women just aren't on the television show every week. I mean, Kris obviously was out. Penelope, I think, has a star quality in her own right. I've said it a dozen times on here. Maybe it detracts from that when JR can't stop talking about how hot she is every time she comes out. But he's an old dude. You can only blame him so much, I guess. But there wouldn't be that slight rust factor if she was out on TV every week. And she also performed well in the ratings when Orange Cassidy first started getting hot, and they were doing that program starting in the Atlanta taping. So I don't know. It's crazy to me that you go weeks and weeks without having Sheeta on TV or Rosa on TV or Penelope on TV or now Statlander on TV, especially when the women do well in the ratings every time. Like all these, you can find 2 segments and then you can have a through line to get Penelope some featured time and knock that rust off and like perform at a high level, I think. But yeah, good match. And the places they're going with, I think both these sort of factions are intriguing.
Yeah, so Kris Statlander, I feel like that if you watch the Road 2 this week, they actually did something that was a departure from their usual Road 2s where they'll go like personality profile kind of ways. This one was just 5 minutes of promo straight down the barrel, and she was the glue in this segment on the Road 2 because she cut a promo about the Penelope match. She was able to interact and goof around with Trent, Chuck, and Orange Cassidy and held her own. Like she kind of was playing the straight person in the act and was like going like this, which is like another funny thing, like the idea that she's the alien but she's the normal one out of the 4 of them. And then she like segued it right to Orange Cassidy stuff. So I think she works well in this group. I guess like my thing about this match, like this was my least favorite match on the show, and a lot of it was like what you're talking about. Like Penelope has obvious rust, and this was one of the most obviously heavily edited matches they've had on a taped Dynamite in a long time. And I don't think this is like my usual production fixations, but like the camera selection that they've done in this and the edits and the choices were very apparent here. And I feel like that when you like look at how they've not really used Penelope and Kris is coming back, like I felt like that the matches that Kris was having on Elevation and on Dark, I felt like that they were better than this Penelope Ford match. And you know what I mean? But a lot of that could be like what Nate's saying. They're just not giving. If Penelope Ford is available to wrestle, they're not taking advantage of it.
Yeah, they did say that she just got her degree, so I guess she went and has been in school a lot of the time.
So I'm sorry, but I've heard Britt Baker is a dentist and wrestles on this show with some regularity. So
she's a dentist. I think she's still driving 2 hours back and forth to go to more dental school, even while appearing in AEW.
I have heard that. I mean, if you type it into Google Maps, the trip, I mean, it's impressive. So I think
it really shows the dedication and smart people that have been around the world and really understand the larger patterns in life will understand and respect that. I don't know to pull a name out of that. Anthony Bourdain is a guy who would be like, oh, that's a superstar right there for sure.
Yeah, and I don't know what the distance is for wherever Penelope was going to school, but I would like to put both of them in separate Google Maps browsers, maybe pull them up in 2 different tabs and just compare and see which is farther, whether she could have done it. So
we should do that. Should be a Patreon episode sometime.
Listener elite of the week. I'm pretty sure I have this time. Patron Vote UJ, I think is how it's pronounced. He says, elite, they say. I don't know anybody's pronouns. I'm using they for everybody. Team Taz getting a win on Dynamite. Question mark?
Vote UJ asking us to vote for the Underjaker. Don't know what that is.
I don't either, but I like it.
That's Brian Cage, big upset here. This is a case where I'm like, obviously I'm more invested as like Hangman Page is a guy that's being elevated, and pushed and stuff. And they've protected him so much and booked him like such a big baby face in all of his matches. And Brian Cage comes out here and gets the win with the drill claw. And, Brian Cage, I think plays a great role in this promotion. But what like a cool thing to be like, a guy who's an established, presence on this show beat another guy who's an established presence on this show, and it felt like a actual upset in terms of one guy is featured more heavily than the others, is pushed stronger than the other, and it's not just like trading wins and I win this week and you win the next week and doesn't matter who wins here or whatever. It's like, wow, a win that has some meaning and impact. That's like fascinating.
Yeah, and it's something that if you're someone that chooses to put a lot of faith in their rankings and the system there, like this in theory clears the deck for what Kenny might be doing at the pay-per-view, because they've made such a big deal about Adam Page having this insane win streak, being ranked number one for this while. So you would think that he's the number one contender. He should be the person having this. Now that like you have like this upset, it actually is something that like if you prescribe to the idea that they are effective with their use of rankings and its use of contenderships, you can be like, well, now they've pretty much like have through like this one thing which helps out Cage and helps out Team Taz. Now this is not the feuding group that can't get together archetype. Now we're saying that Cage has got a significant win on the hand, but also it's like, all right, now they're able to focus more full bore towards whatever the next step of this Kenny Mox storyline is, because then you don't have the thing. Then you're saving the bigger match down the line of finally Omega and Page once again, but now for the title. So I feel like that this is a real success across the board if you really want to like drill down into it.
Well, if you like Cowboys, I got two types of Cowboys for you, because the NFL draft is coming up this weekend and the Kentucky Derby, and you can bet on both of them at mybookie.ag. There's no shortage of odds, props, and horses to take advantage of. They've got props on predicting who's going to go first in the draft. And friends, the Jacksonville Jaguars have the number one pick in the draft. So you can bet on whether it's going to be Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson. What is Tony Khan going to do? You can bet on all that. You can also, make sure if you're betting on that, by the way, that you use the promo code ELITE at MyBookie. You'll get your first deposit matched up to $1,000. Also, if you hit up the website on May 1st, you'll get some freebies because they're celebrating the Kentucky Derby with a host of free games, spins, and chips available throughout the day in the MyBookie casino. So whether you're looking for blackjack or you just want to bet on the Derby, the draft, or any of the other sports that are going on right now, you do it at MyBookie. Just remember to use the promo code ELITE. That's ELITE. Get a free deposit bonus. Start your day off with a win. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere with MyBookie.
So Aaron,
yes, sir.
With it being the Derby coming up, I've pulled up the Derby odds and Derby names, and I have to say, just looking at the names, not a strong horse name year. You usually will have your AP Indies, your Barbaros. This year, the Orb. Yep, Orb. Great one right there. But looking at this, the names that we have here, probably the best name, I have to say, just looking at this, is King Fury. That's a great name, and they're plus 2,500 there. A lot of bourbon names. I mean, we get it. It's Kentucky. Yeah. But also Mandaloon, which I don't think this horse was alive before Mandalorian, or was live before the Mandalorian came out, so I don't think with this.
No, I think you have to be like 3 years old to be in the Derby.
Yeah. And I think Mandalorian was far enough. It was much more recent than that. However, if you're wanting to make the most money on this, right now they have Keep Me in Mind, all one word, at plus 5,000. Right.
Is it all caps?
No. Just
are
the
there
K is
any horse
capitalized.
names that are all caps?
Sadly, no, but there is a horse named Soup and Sandwich.
All
right. And the current favorite is Essential Quality. And there's another horse called Highly Motivated. Yeah, these are some really lame-ass horse names this year. Get together, Bob Baffert.
Yeah, would like to see some weirder horse names, absolutely.
Yeah, I would definitely like to see weirder horse names. I don't know. I'm pretty much out on the Derby. Like, it's fine. I just I used to kind of get into it, or like horse racing generally, but I don't care anymore.
So the Spears family are a bunch of deviants. We used to spend Mother's Day at the horse track.
I like that.
Yeah. I have gone to dog tracks in Palm Beach County. They are very, very just depressing. And luckily, they've shut down dog racing in Florida.
I think we just talked about this, right? When did we talk about this?
Yeah, because the big thing there is about the poker rooms. Like, I remember this exact conversation. There's no need to repeat it.
All right. Well, if you want to repeat it, just head over to mybookie.ag. and play some bets. So, all right, well, let's delete some stuff. But I think we all kind of agree it was there wasn't a lot to hate on the episode other than the thing that I really hated.
Oh,
But
I hated something.
oh, okay. Well, tell us what you hated, Nate.
It's the same thing as last week. It's fucking QVC guy managing Penta. I think it was worse this week than last week. He just amplified the goofiness. JR was calling him a nerd on commentary. Just it's brutal to me. It totally sinks Pentagon's entire aura and character. Which has been established and carried him, because he's not Phoenix. He's not a blow away worker out there. Like, his whole aura and presence and gimmick is like does a ton of the work for this guy. And now you've got fucking some cartoon character jumping around, seconding him. It took me out of the entire match. I was so mad. I was doubly mad because people keep fucking adding me. Like, Alex Abrahante is a big star. Nate, you dummy, aren't you? Like this goofy son of a bitch. And I just almost walked away from the television. I was very mad in my home. I was red and mad and fuming. And if you ever at me again, I'll block all of you.
There we go, Nate. Just tell everyone just not to at you. Makes your life a lot easier. Just be like me. But it's something where, like, I was hoping they would like crank it down a good 20%, and instead they made it like the central storyline and this real RAP Wrestle Circus ass match. Like, the first 3 minutes were like straight out something that you would have seen either in like Wrestle Circus or on MLW. Like, it was like that level of, oh, we're doing a show for the crowd. There is no crowd on this episode, but we're still going to be doing like all the bits before we're going to end up having like a strong match. Then Alex Abrahantes is going to get involved in all of that. And, it just kind of like soured in a way, because like there's a way you could be like, you just use him as like a straight translator who's kind of an asshole and not have him just be like this buffoon. Because I feel like that's the thing, is that they went way too far and they aren't willing to readjust into like, yeah, no, he just translates promos and goes Penta says. Like, that's fine as a manager, but it's the other shit that makes it worse.
Yeah, I probably do lay too much of it at Alex Abrahantes' feet. Like, they have, Penta's been, low-key buffoonish a lot before this too. The fucking St. Patrick's Day hat and all this stuff. But, there's just degrees. There's a breaking point where it's like, okay, you've pushed him over into clown territory, whereas previously he was, a crazy psycho violent guy who's like a little weird and funny. And yeah, this is past my threshold.
This is not good audio, but I just really don't care about this one way or the other. It just doesn't, I don't know, hasn't risen to either level for me.
It's something that's remarkable that less than a month ago, Penta felt like this hot, vicious property in like the Cody match, and then now it's just like he's back to Shamrock Penta. Show me amigo. Like, it's like stuff like that there's a way they could thread the needle that they're choosing not to here. That I could totally understand Nate's hatred of it.
Well, Mike, what did you hate, if anything? What's your delete pick from the show?
That's the thing. I guess like the thing that didn't really do a whole lot for me on the show that we didn't really touch on is just you're building up to this like TV show, like your big TV event, but you have a pay-per-view that's like this far, that's like less than 4 weeks out from this. And yes, we get that they like doing tentpole TV and then their big pay-per-views here, but it's something that like the calendar's about to turn into May, and arguably their biggest show or second biggest show of the year is at the end of the month. And we guess that Hikaru Shida and Britt Baker are having a women's title match. I was thinking we were going to get SEU versus Young Bucks, but now we have that eliminator and then a title match the next week there. And you just kind of like look back at this, and it's something that I say a lot, and it's maybe that tells you that I feel like this was a pretty decent episode. This is the point I'm picking out, because I'm not going to take your point, Aaron. I'm going to let you go off on this, but I would like to see more build towards the thing that we're supposed to pay money for. Like that, like that's something that kind of like gets me each time. Is like, we're going to be paying money for this pay-per-view. Like, you're expecting people to make a value decision here, and you're not doing much for anticipation for this pay-per-view.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna take Aaron's point here. This doesn't really bother me. I think because they've loaded up really the next couple weeks with like marquee things that they want us to be like, hey, we're doing the big blood and guts match, and we got the Cody match, and we got the John Moxley match, and we got the tag team title match, and we got this other Moxley and Eddie Kingston tag match, and I think it's all feels pretty hot to me at this moment. Like all of those matches, it's not necessarily all pointing to a big crystallized destination at the pay-per-view. But I think I just kind of don't mind that because obviously TV is their big economic driver. They're, going to be negotiating for new TV in the future, and they're, doing great in the ratings. So if they keep that up, that's going to be worth more to them, I think, than the pay-per-view buys. Honestly, it might be a different deal for me when we're back to touring, and it's like, no, we're doing a big stadium. Like, you need to pack 10,000 people into an arena for this pay-per-view. You got to start building some stuff up and getting some hype and anticipation going for that. Like, they're still running like half full daily space for every single show. So it kind of just doesn't register as too important to me.
I guess my counter to that is this is a situation that you're asking people to pay money for. And yes, you are getting all your money from, like a vast majority of money from your Turner rights deal, but the consumer, the end user, like they have to make a value proposition here. And what's with their shaky kind of pay-per-views, what have they done to instill any confidence in what's going to happen at Double or Nothing 2021? Because right now I'm looking at this, I'm like, yes, I'm going to be buying this pay-per-view, but am I enthused about things happening at the end of May? I don't know if I can say that.
Yeah, it is for sure. You're asking people to pay a big price tag. That's absolutely the case. But also, it's like they're the hottest wrestling company in the world right now. So, like, if you're a wrestling fan, you don't buy the pay-per-view, then I guess I just don't really know what you're doing. Like, you're a weirdo WWE freak or something. AEW is putting New Japan on their back right now, trying to carry him back to relevance. So, I guess because it's not a economic decision for me, it's just like, I'm going to buy the show no matter what. And I know I am. So.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they've just like killed my my expectations, but because there's like 2 or 3 things that feel like they're getting built, and I'm like, oh, this is good for them. They don't normally build this much this early, so I don't know. I'm not fired up about it yet, but I'm willing to be fired up about it in the future. So we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, there is a definite scenario where in 2 weeks, they've get on these big matches, and then the pay-per-view is right around the corner. It's like, wait, now where are we going? I can see that happening for sure, but I guess I'm just not there yet.
All right, my delete. I think everybody knows what's coming. I was ready to just get mad about them doing this same Darby match with Preston Vance. And then it unfolded. It happened just as I feared it would. And I did not feel myself. I did not feel the anger rising up inside me, the hatred, until the fucking finish of this match. This Cody-ass finish that looked like every single match Cody had for the TNT title. They are literally just rebooking the Cody thing with Darby. It's like, it's a complete misunderstanding of Darby the character. The idea that this is all he can ever do. It's Gabe shit, to be honest, is what it is. It's like, oh, Darby can't actually beat people. It's got to be like some sort of, he just barely hangs on by the skin of his teeth. He's not good enough to actually just come out and beat someone. Even fucking Preston Vance. Okay, whoever wants to argue about Jungle Boy, I was right, by the way. But nobody can argue that Preston Vance is anywhere near Darby's level. I appreciate he's bigger than him. He's stronger than him. But the motherfucker doesn't even wrestle on Dynamite very often. He's nobody. He's literally nobody. So, I mean, this was crazy. Now, all that said, I actually liked the match until fucking Ethan Page got involved. But I thought Preston Vance was pretty impressive, and they did a cool match. But it's just like, what's the point of this? Where is this going? I mean, I fear that it's going to Ethan Page is going to beat Darby Allin, and then I will. It's going to be bad for me personally. But yeah, I just hated this. I hate everything about it. I like that they have I think Thoros was talking about they moved away from Darby as just Sting's buddy, and now he's like actually feels like the champion. That's cool. But I don't feel like this run, even though it's main eventing every week and doing well. So, fuck me. Maybe I'm the one who's wrong here. But I don't think it's doing anything for Darby, the character, in the long run.
Yeah. It did kind of strike me during this match where, Darby was doing his thing and like Sting was on the outside and like, it's kind of the continual surprise of AEW that it's like, oh, wow, like Sting is seconding Darby Allin, the guy from Evolve out here in the main event. And also, Darby main events this show with regularity at this point. It's kind of insane. And then it's also like kind of commonplace, that did strike me. But yeah, Preston Vance, seems like he's got a lot of potential. Seems like, could be a guy that they build for the future. Seems totally capable in the ring. Have no idea about like his personality. They did as good a job you can do as trying to make you care about this character for a quick hot shotted title defense. They're like, this is Brody Lee's guy. Here's Brody Lee's son with this guy. What a baby face. He's been picked as the guy for the Dark Order. Darby wants to give the Dark Order another match because John Silver got hurt in their match. Like that's as good a job you can do. But it still didn't really, I don't know who Preston Vance is. He wears a bad mask. You don't even see his face. And it's, he's not on the level of like a Jushin Liger where he's emoting and doing all this stuff just through his physical bodily charisma or whatever. So, I was kind of out on it from the beginning. I was like, well, I know what this match is. I know Darby wins at the end. I know there's probably some next step in the whole Ethan Page Scorpio Sky thing because that's happening, and Lance Archer and his weird relationship with Sting. So I was kind of just like, okay, I know what this is. I've had a good time watching this show. I'm going to look at my phone and get reactions to Yuji Nagata being on Dynamite announcement.
So I guess, and there's not a good answer for this in my mind. How do you book Darby as champion? Because like that's the big overarching question here is that they're able to do the Darby and Sting versus Team Taz thing, which kind of circumvented it, and they've been having him have a lot of title defenses, and they are trying to get over like the idea of like 9 title defenses now. Is it finally going to wear him down? Is there finally going to be the time that he's not able to get himself out of that situation? But it's something where like I'm wondering, it's like, I guess with the company and with him right now, this is like his big run right now, but how has the booking and the treatment of Darby over his career really have changed here? It seems like that people don't have confidence to book him as, okay, he's the champion, he beats you with his finish and after a back and forth match, and it's not like a skin of his teeth winning on running up the back turnbuckle and, oh, looks, it's kind of like a coffin drop, that's a win here. And I feel like that's kind of been like the big problem with Darby is that people like he's a great underdog, he's great at chasing, but we've seen that around the title they don't really know how to like present him other than still as a guy who gets out by the skin of his teeth. But that's what happened less than a year ago with Cody Rhodes. So I don't know the answer to that question, but I guess that's why I'm posing is like, how do you like overall, like how do you book Darby as like the guy? Because it seems like that right now there's playing the Cody playbook.
You haven't beat guys and be like, I'm a better wrestler than you and I'm going to beat you in a short amount of time. My comp point for Darby was always Rey Mysterio. Like he uses his body and uses his size in the same way Rey Mysterio does. Going back to like Evolve and that, cool little spot he does where he gets slingshotted up onto the second rope and, comes back with body splash or, his rolls or whatever in the ring. And that's the same issue they had with Rey Mysterio is they put the belt on this guy and then just, always presented him as, oh, he's smaller and worse than all these guys. And he's going to, eke out a win by the skin of his teeth. And it's going to be all treated like some miracle run or whatever. Meanwhile, everybody has been watching Rey Mysterio for a decade and going, no, that guy's the fucking best wrestler of the generation. Like he can just beat guys and do cool shit and beat them. I do think, there's wiggle room when you're facing a Jungle Boy, and Jungle Boy is like, hey, I'm also going to be a star soon, so maybe I should put up a good fight against you in the main event. There's not as much wiggle room when you're having another main event and it's Preston Vance, and he's not going to be a star soon. Maybe he's going to be a pushed guy in the future, but to me, it's something you solve the way you solve a lot of my larger issues with this promotion, which is like, hey, instead of every match being 16 minutes long, maybe have Darby beat a guy in 6 minutes and then have somebody else wrestle for 10 minutes.
Yeah, you can do like this first part of the match where like Preston Vance, gets the advantage on Darby, but then Darby comes back and beats him like very forcefully. I mean, you can do that exact same thing. But I agree. And when it comes to like how to book Darby, I think Rey Mysterio is a great comp. And this isn't a perfect comp, but I'm going to do it anyway because I kind of like it. It's like, is Zack Sabre Jr., who when Zack went to New Japan, there was a lot of thought of he's not big enough to look realistic wrestling these guys. And it took like 2 matches and everybody thought he was credible. Now, Zack is a lot taller than Darby, so I'll give you that. And Zack has this built-in thing of, his submission, his technical prowess. I get that. But I still think there's a way to book a small guy in kind of what Mike was saying. I'm just like, he figures out a way. And it's not just figuring out a way to slip by and barely win. It's figuring out a way to be better than guys who are bigger than him. And, that's just what I would do.
The Zack was the other guy I was thinking of, because I was thinking back to Zack and Darby's feud in Evolve, where it's like Darby wants to get to be a technical wrestler on the level of Zack Sabre and all this shit. And he didn't. He just like lost to him, and it's like, well, I got to go back and learn, start from the bottom or whatever, and keep trying to be good. The original sin of the Darby title reign is he just won it out of nowhere, and it had no meaning the way that he won it from Cody. They're just like, okay, you've had a bunch of matches with Cody, now you're going to have another one. This time you're going to win. It was, there was nothing there. There was no juice to that. There was no meaning to that. There was no irk to that. What they could have done, and what I think the right way to do it is like I said, you beat Darby and beat the shit out of him, beat him and beat him and beat him until you're ready to push him. And then when you do that, he's learned all the lessons from all these beatings, and now he's able to beat guys. It seems to me that they put the belt on him too soon. It's like, okay, well, we still got to, show that he's the underdog and that you beat him and beat him and beat him down all the time. So, we've been accused of being like a Darby fan cast, but so, not surprising, I think, that we want to just see him booked like more dominantly, but I think it would be better. It would be better on the television show for it.
Yeah, he got they half-assed told that Cody story of we were supposed to think he was learning things, but they never actually did that. They didn't actually show him getting better and improving and then finally overcoming Cody. So yeah, I agree. It was bad.
And there's a way that if you want to tell a similar story, like, okay, Preston Vance, you're so much bigger than I am. And to be a fighting champion, I have to learn how to do these things. So I'm going to have this match here because I want to learn to adapt and be a fighting champion. John Silver, you are an explosive wrestler. Jungle Boy, you are one of the up-and-comers, and the snare trap is a move that, I know that we're going to cross paths a lot in the future. I need to understand this now. Like, there's ways you could do this, even if you're like, okay, they did it with Cody. Like, you could re-implement those like steps B through Y before you got to Z, and you could book them as bases of these matches, and they aren't doing that. And it seems like that is something that is very easily could explain this away and actually would make the matches more compelling and less samey.
The first step to making yourself compelling is to trim your balls. Head over to Manscaped. Support for Everything Elite is brought to you by Manscaped, the best in below-the-waist grooming. You can head over to Manscaped. You can use the promo code THISIS and get 20% off, free shipping at manscaped.com. Just make sure you use the code THISIS. They've got... Okay, well, I'll tell a story here. So I got 2 things from Manscaped. Do they actually listen to these ad reads? They might be like, Aaron, you gamed the system. That's okay. I'm going to tell you about this. I got 2 because I have 2 podcasts. I gifted one to a friend of mine. Okay. I said, here you go. I've already got the Lawnmower 3.0. Hell, I've got the Lawnmower 2.0 too. I've got all the Manscaped tools. I handed them to him. He opened it in front of his wife. I got to tell you, she was excited. She was excited about the Lawnmower 3.0. She told me it had been months since this man had touched his below the waist grooming needs. She was excited about the crop reviver. She wanted that thing to be revived. She was excited about the crop preserver. She needed something good to be preserved. So you too can make the person in your life who looks at your balls. You can make them excited with the products that Manscaped has. And the easiest way to get those is to head over to manscaped.com. Use the promo code THISIS. You can also get the t-shirt, which, I mean, she was less excited about. I'm going to be honest. The t-shirt doesn't really add anything for her. But you'll get free shipping. You'll get 20% off. The code is THISIS. Your balls and your girlfriend, boyfriend, other person will thank you. So do that. The listener delete. I wish I would have done this correctly because it flowed right from what we did before. Chelsea says, delete. Leave Ethan and Darby in the past. You can't recapture the magic of the arm shovel incident, so don't try.
Yeah, amazing restraint by all of us not talking about Ethan Page's involvement in the main event closing angle for the second week in a row. On the Patreon this week, check out This Is Ethan Page. He did a deep dive on the vlogs of Ethan Page. Terrible mistake. Will mark me for the rest of my days on this planet. But was joined by the guys from the Bad Wrestling Podcast for that. It was an attempt to purge, exposure therapy, purge Ethan Page from my system, so I don't come on here and complain about him every week like I do Alex Abrahantes. It will remain to be seen if that was successful.
So, if this works, Nate, then the idea is that you need to do This Is Alex Abrahantes, and you need to go find his Pennsylvania Indies matches. And
that sounds much
QVC.
better than Ethan Page's vlogs. If you haven't seen Alex Abrahantes' indie gimmick, apparently a graduate of the Heart Dungeon, Alex Abrahantes, check it out. There's got to be some gold in there to find. So that's an idea.
Nate, I have some bad news for you.
What's that?
I believe Oat posted in the EE Discord earlier that the internet evidence of it appears to be gone.
No kidding. Oh, wow.
Oh, man.
Who smartened him up?
I don't know. Now, I'm sure that Mike or brother of the podcast, Drew Spears, can find the archived version of this. I hope someone saved it somewhere.
Wayback Machine?
Yeah, I was going to say, it's been cached here. We'll find this, and I'll talk to my people and see if any of this stuff got taped here. And when we say Heart Dungeon, he was trained by Ross. He's open about, I trained with the Heart Dungeon type training with Ross Hart. Yes, we will be doing it. This is Alex Abrahantes, and we're going to work on this exposure therapy, Nate.
We're gonna have to find some of that old shit because I made the mistake of vlogs once, so I'm not watching his QVC work.
All right, we're going long already, so we're gonna have to bust through this television show.
Well, I think I'm done. So whatever you want to say.
It kicked off with Hangman Page versus Brian Cage. Team Taz attacked Page before the match. Dark Order made the save. They all brawled. Cage won with the drill claw, which I guess we did talk about, so that's fine. There's a Bullet Club pre-tape. They're in the back of a limo. Kenny won the Impact title, by the way, so they talked about that. Kenny was mad about Moxley driving into their trailer, but says he's not afraid. Nakazawa honks the horn. Everyone freaks out, because it reminds them of what happened last week. Kenny says, if you want me, you're going to wrestle Nakazawa first.
Comically small limo, considering all the people involved. Kenny Omega wedged into the corner of the back seat was fantastic.
It's too small. Does Shad not own a bigger limo? They spent more on John Moxley's sports cars than they did for this.
But I think that's the joke, is that this limo is really bad. I mean, and there was no spreading going on in that limo, by the way.
Yeah. And that's tough for when you're a Doc Gallows sized guy and you've got a Doc Gallows sized cock torture situation. You need to spread. So that was probably rough on everybody.
I mean, Carl Anderson in his short shorts. I mean, you're going to think he might not be using the crop reviver. I mean, he might need that airflow there, and no, it didn't have. But just the idea of Kenny in the corner while everyone with their danglies and leather hats on cracked me up.
The Young Bucks beat the Sydal brothers. Matt pinned Mike Sydal after the BTE trigger. SCU came out and basically challenged them afterward, which I thought was pretty good. I thought SCU did a pretty good job here. I think it's dumb that they're the number one contenders because all their matches have been on Dark. But I thought they did a pretty good job here of building up some stakes for the eventual match between the two teams.
Yeah, and I'm fine with them doing this as a challenge because, like, well, if they're going to break up, you know, get a good big match out of it, being their last tag team, you know, run together. That's fine with me. I want to go back to the limo.
How can't we?
I want the Elite to do a shot-for-shot recreation of the D-Generation X Run DMC theme song video where they were all in the club in their black leather, and Stephanie McMahon had like the black leather on, and Triple H had the black leather Kangol or whatever it was. Iconic entrance music video. And yeah, once you know the clubs open up, they got to reshoot that whole thing.
I mean,
clubs never closed in Jacksonville, baby.
Yeah, I was going to say that. I was going to say, do you think that the strip clubs in Florida shut down?
No, but I think the Run DMC video was New York, so I think they got to go to New York and do it.
There's a Jade Cargill pre-tape. She says all the managers are looking to sign her, but they all want a cut of her money. It doesn't work that way.
No, it does work that way. That's exactly how it works, Jade. That's how a managerial relationship works.
No, she makes her own money and her own moves. She's that bitch, Nate. What's your counter to that?
But she does. Okay, I don't disagree with the fact that she is that bitch. She is for sure that bitch. But no, that's a managerial relationship. She still apparently wants a manager, but she does not want to pay them anything whatsoever. So she's like, no, you do not get paid for your services. I'm employing you for $0.
It's exposure. It's exposure. You're Jade Cargill.
Very, very silly.
Oh, very silly, very powerful, and I feel like we're all in support of like the Matt Hardy office. The family office is going to have some hard times, and then he's going to work on spec for Jade Cargill because Jade Cargill, you know, what I mean, she has her money, just like how Taz has her money. Jade Cargill, absolute star here. And one thing that we didn't talk about, and I hate to feel like this, like patting them on the back here. They did a good job on this show with having like 3 distinctly different women's segments when it was a struggle for a long time for them to not have a women's match starting at 9:38 because you had the Jade thing, the Britt thing we'll talk about later, and then Penelope and Kris Statlander. I felt like that was something I kind of came away looking at the notes. I was like, they did a lot towards the women's division on the show when they really usually don't.
Okay, so here's how you write out Alex Abrahantes is you have him approach Jade and be like, I'm doing a great job with Penta. You need a manager. I'm your guy. And then Jade like power bombs him,
throw,
throws him into the polluted Jacksonville River or whatever. And then he just never appears again.
Except on QVC.
Yeah, I'm not trying to take the guy's livelihood away, obviously. I'm just burying everything he does and saying, I wish he wasn't on my television.
Orange Cassidy versus Penta. Orange won with the orange punch with a mic after Alex HP from QVC tried to get involved. Britt and Rebel with Tony. Britt says she's never lied. She said she'd get to the top of the rankings. Here she is. Now it's time for her to remind the champ why she's the face of the women's division. Sheeta later. What'd you think about that, Nate?
Sheeta later. I mean, Britt's the biggest star on the promotion. What else do you have to say? It was her like popping for Tony. I love their like friendship where she's like fake all the time, but they're still actually kind of friends. As continues to amuse me.
All right, then we had the parlay, which we talked about. I guess if you're not that familiar with War Games, they did announce the rules. 2 rings. Starts 1v1. New entrant every 2 minutes, like a regular War Games match. So that just means that was the point of this. One team, they really didn't explain it that well, I didn't think, but one team always has the advantage because it's 1 versus 1, and then a new person comes in, and then a new person comes in. So every other time, the team has the advantage. So in this case, the Pinnacle is going to be the team with the advantage, and that's the right way to book it. The only thing I'm sad about is that Tully isn't the 5th person on the Pinnacle team.
You want him to be like Robert Parker.
Yeah,
and, crap his pants inside the cage.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I was going to make a joke here that I'm just going to say this because if I don't get this on my brain, it's going to rot at me. Of course, people know what this is. They all have watched Memorial Gate, and they've watched the Wakayama Winning Rules elimination tag match. Exact same rules.
That's true. You're right.
Literally, if you haven't watched that, you have to turn this podcast off. That's in the disclaimer on the
Yes,
show notes.
you have
Yes.
to be able to recite the 2 Wakayama tornado winning rules matches.
That's right. Go for it, Aaron.
Next up, Eddie Kingston comes out for his match with Michael Nakazawa. Actually, I should have used that as a plug. If you want to hear people on this podcast forget things that they're supposed to know, then you should listen to us on the 5-Star Match Game podcast, where Mike, Nate, and I competed for trivia gold with our good friend Joe Gagney. That's it. Go check it out. Eddie comes out for his match with Nakazawa. Eddie says, no, he's not wrestling Nakazawa. He wants Kenny to come out. Kenny does come out. Kenny does this very funny thing where he's like, no, actually, we're bad at you. We're getting back at you in this segment. Nakazawa attacks him. Eddie gets the advantage. He's going to break Knox's ankle. Kenny says, go ahead. We have plenty of goons. We see Cutler trying to come out, but Mox is there. They get Kenny in the ring. They put the chair on Kenny's ankle like they're going to break that. And Eddie says, give me a tag match with Kenny or we're breaking his ankle. Callis agrees that they can have a tag match with Omega and Nakazawa ASAP.
I really, makes sense for Moxley to make the save or whatever. I just wanted Cutler to get in that ring, just have Kingston like beating the shit out of both those guys. That pairing very much amuses me for some reason.
It's something I feel like that, just as an aside, that, or one of the vlogs, they had to make a comment about how Brian Pillman Jr. is there and everyone's trying to Pillmanize each other's ankles. Like, I feel like that is a good bit that, and I know you all are listening to this. I just gave you solid content gold for like the next 5 weeks.
Yeah, Ryzen, stop stealing old BTE bits. And here's a new bit: is Brian Pillman trying to collect on his IP rights to Pillmanizing people.
Oh, that's good. They could have tied it into this whole Chelsea Green thing. That would have been good content this week.
Credit me. He's attacking people backstage.
Image and likeness might matter. Fair use does not only apply to things that are monetized.
Yeah, that would be that'd be the first like charismatic thing Pillman has done. So that'd be good for him.
My DMs are open. I have a lot of ideas, guys. If you need help with your vlogs, let Nate and I know, and we can get this working for you.
Still, they haven't used our Drama King Matt idea, so that pisses me off.
I forgot about that. I did see Drama King Matt post a now accepting bookings image, and I'm like, ooh, he didn't credit anybody. Did he make that himself?
Well, did he have a T-shirt saying "He's my poppy-in-law" yet? I mean, as part of the gimmick, or is he just completely forgetting about it? He's not listening to us, is he?
He needs to listen.
Yeah.
Taz is with Tony Schiavone. He says Brian Cage just beat the #1 wrestler in the world, Adam Page.
Love it. I love that.
So that makes Team Taz #1. Christian Cage interrupts. Taz says, Hobbs beat your ass, but he made one mistake. You capitalized. Now you're going to have to face another member of Team Taz. Christian says, Taz used to be one of the toughest guys in the business, talked a big game, backed it up. Now he can't back it up, so he surrounded himself with other tough guys. But now when he sees Christian returning after retirement, he wishes he could do that. So basically he's jealous of Christian. He's going to teach another one of his guys a lesson. Hopefully they'll realize they're better off without you. I thought Christian delivered here on a pretty good promo.
This was, I think, the best thing he's done in the company yet. And it's not super complicated or high concept or whatever. He just had it's like, here, I'm going to explain Taz's motivations in this segment. I'm going to explain my motivations in this segment. I'm going to do it with like a very collected veteran presence because I've cut 1,000 of these things. And it was great. I was like, yeah, okay, now I understand what this is all about. Now I remember what I liked about Christian when I was a young guy. This was good.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like they've completely reset Christian after the way he debuted, and now like this is completely successful, and I feel like that's something that there is a lot of interest. I think him versus Ricky Starks is a very fascinating future match they could have, and now there's a lot of direction there in this.
Yeah, that's a fascinating future match. And additionally, more fascinating future match, Christian Cage versus Hook. That is big time.
So if you do listen to the 5-Star Match Game, Nate probably does his best ever call out of Hook that will soon be coming a soundboard drop for us at one time.
I've been told
that'll be good.
I've been told by Joe Gagney that he liked it so much, Nate, that he appended it to the end of the episode.
Well, yeah, it was the only answer I really had any sort of pride in. So you can probably feel that coming through. the voice to audio. But yeah, I mean, who better for Hook to have his first real match against? Like, there was talk about Christian Cage working miracle matches with Yoshitatsu and shit, where it's like, how did he do it? He can have a good match with anybody. So I'm ready for the Christian versus Hook program.
I think there's something to be said for Christian. Not only did he have 7 years off, but he also, like, all of his promos for however long were within the WWE system. So there's probably something to be said for taking some time to, like, get used to having the freedom to just do your own shit. And this felt good. So I hope that this is more what we see out of Christian. Kris versus Penelope Ford. Kris won with the Big Bang Theory. We had the Preston Vance video that Nate talked about, trying to build up hype and talking about Brody bringing him into the Dark Order. Then we had, I can't believe this, I don't think this has come up at all.
No, it hasn't.
It was good.
QT Marshall, Nick Comoroto, Aaron Solo versus Billy Gunn, Dustin Rose, and Lee Johnson. The Factory pulled up in Cody's bus. It ended when QT pinned Lee Johnson after the governor liver punched him.
Yeah, just from the start of this segment, QT entering with the Factory, coming out of the Nightmare Family bus. And now they all have matching gear. They're all in blue. They all got the Factory logo on there. QT walking with confidence, cameras just dead on, showing him leading his team out of the bus like they're the visiting team. They're the villains from the kids' sports movie. They're Iceland and D2, the Mighty Ducks. Was super into that. Mr. Freak Beast and his the Factory gear. I think completes the whole package for this team, is that they all have this unified. It's kind of like the Super Chad version of the Premier Athlete brand or something, where they're like they're like the villainous MMA camp or something.
Yes,
and they've all got this unified theme and aesthetic going on. I'm all about it. Grant Akuma was talking on Twitter, I don't know if you saw, Mike, about how they should give the Nightmare Family the red from the aesthetic, and all the stables should be color coded like Dragon Gate.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a good idea, especially because Goldust needs new gear. I don't know what's going on with the blue in his gear, but they need to get him just a unified red look for the Nightmare Family.
Yeah, I loved this segment. Like, if it wasn't for the fact that there was a tag match that was right up my alley, I thought that, like, even with this in the post match, I thought like that they've done such a solid job of, like, this is a match that would be a build-up match, and they did a great job of being like, all right, we're not going to have Cody's the money in here, so we're keeping Cody out here, but all of Cody's friends are going to be fighting off against the whole Nightmare Family. You keep a go-go off of the outside for having the obvious interference leading up to the win. And I feel like that looks great and is smart booking. And then really Lee Johnson was like the star on the Nightmare Family team, as he should be in this situation. Like he had like the crazy Fosbury flop corkscrew moonsault that he did that looked sick. And then, the post match, I just like, this is so much like just Cody core stuff that of course this happened this way, and I was laughing and enjoying the entire way, where it's like, totally understand why people wouldn't. I did like, these fleets of fancy just amused me greatly.
Yeah, I totally understand people hating the fact that, like, there was just a random cutaway and now QT Marshall was on top of this fucking 30-foot tall bus. A
crane shot of this. Crane shot of this.
I get hating that and thinking it makes no sense. To me, I was filled with joy and I was like, oh, this is delightful. I wanted them to recreate the Violent J spot from, was it Shaggy Too Dope? The ICP spot from the bus.
Yeah, Shaggy Too Dope getting powerbombed by Mike Awesome onto that 70s bus. Yes.
They I guess they need to build to that or something. Somebody falling off Cody's bus.
They got to get ICP on AEW.
They have to get ICP in here. You're not a legitimate promotion until you book ICP. They've worked in every major promotion in North America, maybe, at least the United States. So you have to have ICP for something. Oh, there was somebody else I really wanted them to bring in just for shits and giggles. I can't remember.
All right, Kip went into the locker room to see Miro. Miro, instead of greeting him, beat the shit out of him. And then at the end, hugged him and said he forgives him. And then as he walks away, says, "We'll talk."
Yeah, this was good. This was perfect because they had the unanswered question out there of, oh, Kip's going to be on this show. They had, if they didn't have something with Kip and Miro on the show, I was gonna be pissed off. I was gonna be like, what the fuck? They just dropped that entirely. Nothing happened. So I was like, yes, that makes perfect sense for Miro. He's a, absolute monster psychopath. But he still wants to play his little video games with Kip. So totally fits for me.
Yeah, and Miro, how many lockers did Kip get involved with in this segment? It was like at least 3 lockers. Like, it just, they tied up the loose end very well here, and I feel like that it'll be an interesting bit for this act to see where it goes from here.
I like this because it had to piss off the people who were like, oh, Miro should just kick everybody's ass. And then he did it, but then he still was goofy afterward. Yeah. So that had to make them mad. So I
am so high on Miro right now. That was going into this show. I'm like, oh, is Miro going to be on this show? I hope Miro's on this show. That's where I'm at with Miro, where I'm like idly thinking about him.
Then the main event, the TNT title, Darby versus Preston Vance. Darby reversed Preston Vance's full Nelson by catapulting off the ropes, getting the pin.
Now, do you think only the wrestlers that we complain about listen to this show or are aware of this show? Or do you think Miro knows that we've been defending him the whole time?
Miro takes numbers and such very important, so I'm guessing he is aware of his press clippings, such as they are.
Yeah, I would like to imagine that. I mean, the awareness there with like Miro, he has. I probably was Kip's job to be like, okay, when did they talk to me? What did they say? So of course he listened.
Do you think we're the #1 AEW podcast? I think so.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, you say at the top of every show that we're the best.
Yeah.
Okay, there's a difference between being the best.
It's not confidence, guys.
I really have no way to know because like if you look on the podcast app or something, you'll find like some podcasts you've never heard of before. And some totally foreign branch of wrestling fandom that we never interact with whatsoever. And you find them on Twitter and they're like, oh, they have 4,000 followers. Literally never heard of any of these people before. So I have no idea. No way to say.
But there's no way to prove otherwise. So we could still say it.
I don't want to. This is going to sound so obnoxious. I doubt that there are podcasts exclusively devoted to AEW with significantly more listenership that also are listened to by people involved in the promotion would be my guess.
Well, that was just my point. I was thinking of like, okay, obviously wrestlers and wrestling companies often like to hear, what is being said about them. And I'm just thinking, if you made a list of like we got to keep tabs on these podcasts. I was just saying, I think ours would be near the top of the list.
Yeah, I wonder. I mean, there's got to, what bridge do you cross where like either they just find us personally obnoxious, which I would totally understand, or we make some criticism that like doesn't make sense.
Cuts a little deep.
It cuts too deep or doesn't make sense with the full wealth of knowledge that they have. Like, we couldn't have done that because this person had this thing and this person had this thing and this person had COVID and whatever else.
Sure.
And you just go, well, these guys don't know what the fuck they're talking about. Like I would understand that also.
Yeah, and it you never know, and since we will never know, I'm just gonna keep on saying we are the #1 until someone proves me otherwise, and I will immediately reject your theory.
I just want to say that if we say something that doesn't make sense because it's something you could just tell us the thing .
That's true. No, they do like to launder their talking points through
yes, friendlier,
less antagonistic.
Less antagonistic. Yeah, I'm trying to say that we have less baggage and we'd be better at laundering those points for that reason.
Yeah.
This all could have been an off-the-air conversation. None of the other podcasts have the TNT scoop going all the way back to the beginning of the fucking promotion. So
that's exactly right. Okay. The best way to support us, patreon.com/everythingelite. Nate already gave the big sell for Patreon. So go check it out. We put up a lot of shows. We have a Discord. Listen, get all your Ethan Page content on the Patreon. That's my sell for this week.
I think we're up to because now it's 18 months. It's going to be interesting coming into May. It'll be the first time that we are doing a second edition of a pay-per-view because we've already done like this, and we'll be able to revisit some things we said in 2021. I mean, we're at the end of April. We're going to have a big May coming up as well. So especially with Double or Nothing stuff. So I have to go find that document that we did. If you want to go revisit, where we made our guesses about the year 2021 in AEW and see how we did on those bets. Now that thought's in my mind.
That's right. That was a good gimmick.
I'm pretty sure that
another great show idea from me.
And Nate just gave me a really good show idea that we're gonna do soon. I'm pretty sure one of mine was that they wouldn't get back over 1 million viewers before the next Double or Nothing.
Both of you said no to that, and I was
Mike,
like, yeah.
Mike had the receipts on that one ready to go.
Well,
I remember all the ones I said right.
We didn't know NXT would be leaving, so
no,
that's true. That's true.
I was the person that said that the Inner Circle would not break up and would have the same original 5 members.
Does that count? Because they added MJF for a time, so that was not original 5.
I believe the question is, the producer right now is saying that he's going to try to roll the tape here, but I believe
Mike's having a psychological break, and he believes himself to be multiple people.
I believe that the question was, the original 5, will the Inner Circle still have all 5 original members and will be the Inner Circle? And if that was the question on the tape, then I remember I was one person that said yes for that. So
he's got all his receipts.
I can't try to type. So Thoros asked in the YouTube chat, Cody got the Snoop remix. Who gets the ICP remix? And I tried to say Darby gets Wicca Faye's X ICP, which I think would be. I would love to hear Shaggy 2 Dope over the I Fell beat for sure.
I mean, Darby has been hanging out with JPEG Mafia again, so that's an easy remix and would be dope.
Yeah.
ICP, who has ICP energy? Oh, this would be a good topic to tackle on a future show, seeing what licensed music matches up with what AEW wrestlers.
What could he be talking about? All right, patreon.com/everythingelite. Next week on Dynamite, the Blood and Guts match, Inner Circle versus Pinnacle, Cody Rhodes versus QT Marshall, Kenny Omega and Michael Nakazawa versus Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston. Britt Baker will be in action, and there's going to be a 4-way tag eliminator match.
ICP should do Abaddon.
Oh, yeah, that's good. I like that. 4-way tag eliminator match. SCU, Jurassic Express, Varsity Blondes, The Acclaimed will all be in that match to determine who gets to wrestle the Young Bucks on the May 12th episode of Dynamite, which is also going to feature an IWGP US Championship match with Jon Moxley defending against Blue Justice, Yuji Nagata.
So I was trying to take credit for a script. Did we talk about how I had a pretty decent feeling this would be in Jacksonville? I can't remember if we decided on the pod or not.
No, this might have been an off-air thing, but it makes sense with the state of emergency with everything that Japan's not really running right now, so yeah. Yeah,
well, I mean, I think we knew Yuji was going to be in the States, and there was some debate as to whether it would be on Strong or on Dynamite. And I think actually Thoros pointed us to the tip for a friend of the show, Keiko Hondo Superfans, that he might be in the Jacksonville area. And I just don't know if we said it on the show or not, or if this is an obnoxious Robert thing where it's like, we knew this 2 weeks ago.
But now that means they have to recreate the Yuji Nagata training beach video in Jacksonville.
That'd be good. Very excited to see him return to, the spiritual successor of WCW.
Who will be next? Will Masahiro Chono show up next time?
That would be dope.
Yeah, that would be dope. Wasn't Chono already was on AEW, wasn't he?
No, Muda was.
No, Chono was as well.
Chono was a judge for the.
No, that was Muto for sure.
That was Muto, but Great Muta, of course, wrestled in WCW. But friend
Chono
of the
has
show,
not been in AEW.
No, Chono has not been, but he was in WCW. A friend of the show, Alan Farrell, had a really good tweet earlier today, like listening to people from WCW who have appeared. So far as this, Shima and Yuji Nagata. Well, Ultimo technically appeared in that Chris Jericho video, so that's one person off the list as well. We still need Tokyo Magnum, Meiko Satomura. That one might be a little bit harder to do. Kaz Hayashi and Kurosawa.
We gotta get Kurosawa.
He's just working on the tea farm right now. I mean, he might have the time.
Thoro says we did talk about Nagata talking to Keiko. So
good. I'm glad.
No, we covered our ground with that. So all good. All right. So that's a bunch of stuff that's coming up. I'm sure we'll talk much more about Jon Moxley and Yuji Nagata in the coming weeks. So I think that's it. Make sure you're following us on Twitter at Everything AEW. I'm at Aaron Like the Car. Nate's at Epitasis. Mike's at Fujiheya. Subscribe to the podcast. Give us a 5-star rating and a review. Support the show by going to patreon.com/everythingelite and subscribing, going to mybookie.ag and using the promo code ELITE, and going to manscaped.com and using the promo code THISIS. Those are all very good. So that's it for Mike. For Nate, I'm Aaron. We'll see you next week.
Introducing Guinness Nitro Cold Brew Coffee Beer, blending the smooth, creamy nitro taste of Guinness with hints of coffee, chocolate, and caramel. Guinness Nitro Cold Brew Coffee Beer, your new favorite part of the day. Look for it where Guinness is sold. Must be 21 and over to purchase. Please enjoy responsibly. Diageo Beer Company, New York, New York.